Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Hoops with Noops. Of course, I am Alex Noops Christensen, brought to you by the fine folks at FTN. Make sure you sign up for all the great stuff there. I'm sure that you enjoyed the Super Bowl, but I know you enjoyed the Super Bowl if you followed all the great work done by the folks at FTN. Crushed player props, had some really nice bets on the side, the total. I imagine just about everything I read from the folks at FTN was overall a winner. It was really great, a lot of good stuff, and that's just going to continue. I know football is over, and I'm kind of happy about that. I'm ready to focus on just basketball and maybe a few other things, but there's still tons of other great stuff going on, a lot of tools, a lot of content, and the FTN Discord itself, one of the more valuable parts of the whole package. You get to be involved in chats, get picks as quickly as possible, a lot of really great stuff. Our buddy Josh Gross crushing women's college basketball. If that's kind of what you're into or you just like making money, he is just hand over fist. I think he's up over 80, 90 units at this point. We're only about halfway through the season. So make sure you get in there, subscribe. Down in the ticker below, there's a little bit of a discount. Just tons and tons of great stuff. At the very least, be sure you subscribe to this channel. A lot of great shows that come out for free. But again, it is absolutely worth your money to sign up, get all that great stuff, get into the, again, the Discord where you not only get all my bets as quickly as possible, you even get all my player prop bets and anything that I really do before game time. Let's get to some basketball. It is Monday. A lot to cover here, 10 games. And again, happy Monday. I hope you guys all enjoyed the Super Bowl. Hopefully you had some Chiefs tickets. You had Purple Gatorade. That was an easy winner, although we did have to go and spend some time sleuthing around for the video. But the Super Bowl is always really great. It was a fun game. The broadcast was really well done. I thought Tony Romo was excellent. The halftime show could have been a little bit better, but that's about as good as the Super Bowl gets, and it was a lot of fun. But we're done. There's no more football. That means we are NBA. That's what's most important for me going forward. We could lock in because we're about 65% of the way through the season. There's not that many games. Most teams have played 52, 53 games. That means there's 30 or less games to get to the seed that you want to be at, to get into the playoffs, and hopefully, again, avoid the play-in tournament. Teams like the Lakers and Warriors have been pushing hard to try to win games, and maybe they can sneak up to the 6th seed and avoid that play-in tournament where, again, anything can happen. So you've got a few days till the All-Star break, and those can always be a little clunky as players are looking forward to the long weekend or looking forward to celebrating the All-Star break. It's always a lot of fun. So got to be a little bit careful for this week, but once we get through it, it's heads down and teams are really going to be pushing hard. So a lot of exciting basketball to come, and I think tonight, again, is going to be really good. 3 games that I have bets on. The other 7 I'll walk you through and not for Noops, where I just try to give you the lay of the land, my thoughts, and why I'm not betting this game now or I'm not betting it at all. But first comes to first. Let's get to the games I am betting. We'll start with the San Antonio Spurs visiting the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors 6-point favorites. The total sits at 237, and this spread looks about right to me. This Raptors team, I think, is pretty interesting, actually. Even after some of the trades they made, they still have shooting. There's some interesting players here, but it's a very thin roster, and they're asking a lot of these guys. The Spurs, we've seen them actually start to play some good lineups. Trey Jones has been locked in at the starting point guard. Wembanyama is playing center without another big man next to him. But as we see with a lot of young teams, as we get to this point of the season, there's really a lot of fatigue. I mean, these young bodies that have played college basketball, international basketball, are used to the season being over by now. This is a lot of games. So we've seen them really struggle. I think the spread makes sense at 6, but the total to me looks too high here. The total is up at 237. I make this closer to 230. I just want to double check some of the numbers I'm going to share with you here. But as I look at it, there's been a huge drop in pace for both of these teams. If you pull pace for the entire season, the Spurs have the 5th fastest pace, 102 possessions per 48 minutes. The Raptors 18th at 99 possessions per minute. If I go back and look at just the last couple of weeks, basically since we've gotten through the trade deadline and these teams have settled a little bit, the Spurs are down to 15th in pace at a number of 99. Again, that's 3 less possessions per 48 minutes for them. And the Raptors down to 26th. Again, 96, also 3 less possessions per game. That means a lot less shots, a lot less points. And when I look at this number, the pace that's implied here to me is a lot closer to the pace we've seen for the full season and not for the change that we've had recently here. I think, again, the Spurs team is continuing to try to limit minutes so Wembanyama can stay healthy and keep these young guys from being too burnt out. And at the same time, the Raptors are trying to slow the game down because they just don't have enough quality players to rest these guys and really try to push the pace and attack teams. So I think this is a really great spot to bet the under, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. 237, really anything 236. If you have 235, 235 and a half at, minus 105, plus 100, that's fine too. Again, I make this total closer to 233. These teams match up fairly well with each other defensively, so I don't see really too many issues, and they're just being a overly efficient offensive night. We see a lot of points with only a few possessions. Pace really drives totals, and this game should be slow. Give me the under here. This is too many points. The Washington Wizards visit the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks, huge favorites here, 13.5 points, and that makes a lot of sense. The total's 247. The Mavericks with Luka and Kyrie are one of the better teams in the Western Conference. They have struggled with injuries all year, but did make some nice moves. They pick up P.J. Washington. He should be a nice fit. Daniel Gafford should do well behind Derek Lively Jr. when Lively comes back. Again, Lively's still out for another couple more games, and Gafford should help while he's gone, but those are not huge improvements. Those are you're kind of working on the edges. You're working in the margins here, where the Mavericks are definitely better. But I look at the market rating, and it's been moved. I don't think it should really. I mean, maybe they're half a point better, but it looks like it's been moved about a point and a half or so. And at the same time, the Wizards, who traded away Daniel Gafford, look like they've been adjusted down. And again, I don't really agree with that adjustment. You're looking at a Washington team that didn't really play Gafford that much, only 26 minutes per game in the 46 games he did play, whether it be foul trouble or just their desire to play small. Gafford was not in the game late in fourth quarters, and that's really when you've seen the Wizards play their best basketball. That's when they cover these big numbers, and I think this is a big number they can cover. I had the spread closer to 9.5, 10. We get a chance to bet 13.5. Really anything 12.5 or better looks good for me for, again, a Wizards team that now without Gafford doesn't have a center, which is a problem, but not against a Mavericks team without Derek Lively. Again, Daniel Gafford is now the best center on the Mavericks as long as Lively is hurt, and that's not a real problem. He is not someone that is going to dominate a game in a way that Washington is concerned. That means the Wizards have more shooting on the floor, more athleticism, just overall a team that I think is going to be even better than they have been covering on the back door. They've been pretty good on the road as well. I think you're up 5-6 units just blindly betting Wizards on the road. This matchup looks good for them. It's a non-conference opponent. Again, Dallas really shouldn't be locked in here, and we've seen the Wizards still play with a good level of effort, even though they're not trying to win games. They are covering, especially late here, so 13.5 is too many points. Give me the Wizards. The next game up here, another game where I struggle to figure out kind of how the market has ended up at this rating for both of these teams. The Golden State Warriors are 1-point favorites in Utah, where the total is 240 points. I don't understand that. On a neutral court, I have the Utah Jazz rated about the same to maybe even slightly better than the Golden State Warriors. And Golden State has gotten better. They finally are pushing Klay Thompson's minutes down and playing more Brandon Pajemski, who is just a better fit, more youthful, really bringing more energy. And it's been a pretty scary lineup when it's been Draymond, Pajemski, Kuminga, and Curry with one other player there to close games. It's a really nice net rating. But they're still overall not a great team. Again, they're winning games, but their most impressive wins, it's a 1-point win over Phoenix or, a double-digit win over a Pacers team, but the Pacers still with Tyrese Halliburton on a minutes limit and not very good. So I just don't rate what the Warriors have done very highly, although they are better. And you look at this Jazz team who's traded away a couple pieces that, Kelly Olynyk, Simone Fontecchio, OJ Ajabaji, they're nice players. They're going to help and continue to grow, but secondary pieces for a Utah team that's deep and has guys that can step into these roles. So I just don't understand this. Again, I'd have the Jazz maybe half a point favorite on the neutral at home in Utah, which is one of the better home court advantages in the league, simply from the altitude and from the travel spot. I really like this. Give me the Utah Jazz minus 102 here. Again, maybe Golden State is starting to ascend to a higher level, but based on what I've seen, again, I just don't rate them that highly. And the Jazz still have this really nice four-guard rotation that is balanced out with Chris Dunn, with Keontae George, Jordan Clarkson, and Colin Sexton. They're all playing really nice and complement each other well. There's scorers and defenders and guys that can do things all working together. Lauri Markkanen's having another great season. John Collins looks, not quite rejuvenated, but is starting to play decent basketball again. And Walker Kessler, one of the best defensive big men in the league, is finally going to be pulled back into the starting lineup. I'm excited for Utah here. I think they win this game outright. So give me the Jazz on the money line. Those are the three games I like, and of course I'll recap them at the end. But for now, quickly, the 7 games that I have not bet and why. This is not for Noops because they're just not for me. We don't have to bet every game, and we shouldn't. Starting with my Philadelphia 76ers, the sad 76ers, as I'll probably be calling them. They are 10.5-point underdogs in Cleveland, and that makes perfect sense to me. It's not just Joel Embiid not being on the court. It's no Nick Batum. It's no DeAnthony Melton. That really creates a thin roster for this Philadelphia team and not a lot of good guys to come in and fill those roles. Tyrese Maxey has been playing injured. He's going to be back tonight. Did take a game or two off. Should be a little bit better, but this Philadelphia team is not nearly as good as a Cleveland team that is even better than they were last year. They've got Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, and Jared Allen. We know how good that core is and how well they've worked together, and they've even redefined a little bit about how they're playing. All the secondary guys are having great seasons. Okoro looks better. Max Strus has been really good. It's just a really great team in Cleveland. They've only lost 2 games since the beginning of 2024, 17-2. Just an incredible run for them. At home, they deserve to be favorites this big. I just can't see Cleveland. Again, I make this closer to 9.5, and it's hard for me to see Cleveland really blowing out this Philadelphia team. But at the same time, this is not enough points for me to want to take with the Sixers, who have just been bad, just a sad team here recently. The Indiana Pacers are 9.5-point favorites over the Charlotte Hornets. The total sits at 238.5, and again, comes out pretty close to my numbers here. Halliburton's minutes are starting to go up, and the Pacers look better and better. They could win this game by 25 points, let alone the 10 points they need to cover, but just too inconsistent. And this Hornets team has been, again, still trying. What you get with these bad teams is there's not a lot of talent, but you do get a lot of effort. These young players, these bad players know that this is their chance to show teams that they can be useful in their next destination. So the Hornets are still pushing hard late in these games. They're not really lying down. So as much as I could make a case for Indiana covering this number, just haven't been playing great basketball. My numbers, again, only have this Indiana minus 10.5, almost 11. So not a big edge. If you want to play the Pacers, go ahead. I'm going to stay away from it. The Chicago Bulls go to Atlanta. The Hawks 4-point favorites, and the total 237.5, and the Hawks are finally starting to win games and cover. They are, I believe, 7-1 in their last games. I'm sorry, let me just double check that. That sounds too good as I'm saying it. 6-2 in their last game. Still pretty good. Not quite 7-1, but 6-2 straight up and 6-2 against the spread. They're finally starting to cover. As I mentioned several times in this space, Indiana for most of the season was the worst team against the spread at home, against the spread on the road, against the spread as a favorite, and against the spread as an underdog. They hold the title, if you will, in those areas. 2 of 4 of those areas still are close to 3, but just getting better. And I think part of it is just playing Onyeka Okongwu more, a younger player, someone who's a little better defender, a little better shooter than Clint Capella, not as good in the pick and roll. And what intentionally I think Atlanta tried to build this team around with Capella, with Trae Young. But Okongwu offers some nice stuff. It's kind of similar to the impact Jalen Johnson has made and allowed Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, and the other players to really succeed around them. So this might be a better version of this Hawks team. But at the same time, the Bulls are pretty good. I might find my way to backing the Bulls. I do have this closer to Atlanta, minus 2.5, 3. But if Alex Caruso is out, it's going to be tough for the Bulls to guard this team, and I think we'll see a lot of points, and that sets up nicely for Atlanta. If Caruso can play, I might back the Bulls if we still get a chance to play them at plus 3.5 if this number doesn't move too much. Caruso generally doesn't move the market, but I think he's actually pretty important, especially in a matchup where you have 2 guards like Murray, like Trae Young, and you really need a player like Caruso who's a great perimeter defender. So nothing now, but check the FTN Bets Discord. I might have a Bulls bet for you later. This game is a mess. The New York Knicks go to the Houston Rockets. The Rockets, 3.5-point underdogs, the total 221.5. The Knicks, as I'm sure you know, the injury report is a mess. No OG Anunoby, no Julius Randle. Mitchell Robinson is still out, and Isaiah Hartenstein is questionable. If Hartenstein is out, there really is no center left on this New York team, and that's a problem. They're really going to struggle defensively, and even with Hartenstein out there, this has suddenly become a really thin roster against the Houston team that has been good at home, that has ground teams down, but Houston might not be with Alperen Şengün tonight. Şengün is questionable, and he is the Rockets' offense. Especially with Fred VanVleet out, Şengün is the one that handles most of the passing, most of the creation on offense. He is their most efficient scorer, and I just struggle to see how the Rockets are going to do without him. But at the same time, definitely don't want to back the Knicks with all those guys out. So this game is just a mess. We don't even know who's playing. The New Orleans Pelicans go to play the Memphis Grizzlies. The Pelicans 9.5-point favorites, the total at 222. Memphis's roster is terrible. They finally have Jaren Jackson Jr. back, but the rest of the team is basically G League guys, and despite that, despite the fact that they're losing games, I believe they're 0-8 in their last 8, but 4-4 against the spread. They're playing tough. They're covering numbers. They're playing these teams closer than expected. The Pelicans, at the same time, a really good roster, but possibly without Zion Williamson tonight, could beat this Grizzlies team by 20 points. But they've struggled against bad teams. They beat the Trailblazers by only 9 the other night in Portland. That's a much better team than Memphis here, even though Memphis is at home. And again, a little better home court advantage. The Pelicans only beat the Spurs by 1 about a week ago. They just can't seem to put away these bad teams. They come out, have a nice first half, and then struggle the rest of the way. So I even show a little bit of value here on Memphis too. So I'm not betting the Grizzlies given who's playing, and I'm definitely not comfortable in the Pelicans being able to cover the number this big. It's a mess. A great game, but well, maybe a great game. I don't know. It's not one that I'm going to bet because the Denver Nuggets, although they're just 1-point favorites over the Milwaukee Bucks with a total of 230, I just don't know who to trust here. The Denver Nuggets have been sleepwalking through parts of this season. They just know that their goal for the regular season should be to keep everyone healthy and to not give away too much of their best plays so that they're on tape for teams to use in the postseason. They need to save that stuff for the playoffs. And they play up for certain teams. But is Milwaukee a championship contender? Are they a team that really requires the Nuggets' best effort? I don't know. The Bucks have been playing bad basketball. Glenn Rivers, the new coach, has not done anything to really fix things. The defense seems clunky again still, and the offense is worse. So do I trust a Bucks team that has not put it together yet to suddenly play a good game? Or do I trust the Nuggets to try in a game where they don't have to try in a season where they really haven't? I don't know what to do. I'm going to watch this game. I think it'll be interesting, but not the best game and definitely not one I'm going to bet. The best game tonight, and this will be a great game. Unfortunately, like most great games, though, it's hard to find an angle to bet. The Minnesota Timberwolves visit the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers 4.5-point favorites, a total of 224.5. And a game that really could be a preview of the Western Conference Finals. The Timberwolves are your 1 seed. The Clippers are the 2 seed, just half a game between them. But half a game between them and the 4 seed, a lot to play for in the West. There's a good chance we see this as a playoff series. It should be very exciting. 2 really good teams, play good defense, have enough offense here. Anthony Edwards really should be a nice piece. I'm excited to watch him go against Kawhi Leonard. At the same time, Minnesota has this really nice big team that should dominate a Clippers team that is not terribly big themselves, but Minnesota probably struggles tonight if Jaden McDaniels is out. He's their best perimeter defender, and they really need him to put on one of Paul George or Kawhi. Otherwise, the 2 of them are really going to be able to do whatever they want. So, fun game. Comes out pretty close to my numbers. Just enjoy the watch. I'm sorry I can't really suggest anything of value to bet. But the good news is there are 3 games that I think we should bet. In the Spurs-Raptors game, give me under 237. Again, just think the market has overrated the pace here. I think this will be a much slower game than expected. The Wizards plus 13.5 in Dallas. The Wizards are bad, but they're not this bad. There's too many points. And the Utah Jazz, moneyline minus 102 at home, hosting the Warriors. I just think the Jazz are better than the Warriors on a neutral court, and definitely better at home. So 3 bets for you tonight. Thanks again so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Again, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, put a comment down below. Let us know how we're doing, or if you have any questions yourself, I'll be sure to get back to them. Of course, you can find Hoops with Noops Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday in written form and in video form Monday and Friday. So read me tomorrow at FTN Bets, and I'll be back Friday in video form. Best of luck until we talk then.